Hello, and welcome to Disclosure Network New York, a meeting on Sunday, January 21, 2018. I'm Nick Curto, Co-Founder and Director. DNNY is a grassroots organization now celebrating our 17th year of providing 2 meetings a month throughout the year here in Manhattan. We focus on cutting-edge UFO, ET issues, paranormal phenomenon, and related subjects. Our members do intense investigative research into these various areas and share that information with the group and our internet following. Our motto is connecting the dots to seek truth. I'd like to mention that we have available to everyone worldwide a news blast email service about various topics that we get into, and it's for free. Just visit our website, dnny.info, and type in your email address and where it is asked for, and you'll receive the DNNY News Blast. It's a free service and will connect you with us and the topics that we are currently focusing on. We have hundreds of people, literally, all over the world that have signed on for this service. Our featured guest today's meeting is Mr. Ray Songtree, author of the thought-provoking Lipstick and War Crimes book series. His outstanding website can be found on the internet by visiting lipstick-and-war-crimes.org. This will be his 4th presentation at DNNY in the past 7 years. Ray lives in Kauai, where Mark Zuckerberg's Bohemian Grove is located. Mr. Songtree boycotts Google, Amazon, GMOs, insecticides, Wi-Fi, electric transactions as much as he possibly can. So I imagine his responses will be challenging to some, I am sure. Ray, it's wonderful to have you here to do a phone interview today. A very warm welcome, my friend.
Take Sundays to seek a deeper understanding of things. That's really a compliment to you. And I'm grateful to Nick and to you all for just having the opportunity to express my contemplations and realizations, which, like yourselves, is ongoing, and I don't want to ever stop. So in my world, there's no final enlightenment. We just keep growing and growing. I had put out some questions for people to consider. I'm not going to really address these directly, I don't think. But these are the kind of questions which I ask. 1, why do we seek truth about our history and government? What is it that motivates us? Why are we seeking the truth? And what I'm saying is we're trying to protect something. So what do we want to protect? And then 3 was, if we had a different system, let's say we busted all the bankers and got rid of all the Satanists and everyone else, and there was less corruption, would our high consumptive, wasteful lifestyle still be impacting the environment? Well, what about that? That's what I'm asking. Number 4, so will making America great again help the environment, or will it help indigenous peoples? That's a real question. I have my feelings about that. And then number 5, will more advanced technology speed our impact upon the earth or slow it down? And kind of added to that is, for how many people? For 1 billion, 2 billion, 6 billion, 10 billion people? How many people can use advanced technology that gets faster and faster without impacting the earth? Okay, number 6. So we get back to our personal lives. What are we doing studying all this stuff, and what do we want to do with our own lives? Because many of us are older now, and what are we doing? So these are the general questions I put out to the group. And then I said I was going to read a statement, and then we would go through it and pick through it, and that'll be a question and answer. This is about, I guess, about 500 words, and I just wrote it this morning. So I'm going to, does anyone have any questions right now before I read this?
Not at the moment, Ray. We should just proceed. I think that will
Keep
also
going.
come up later.
Okay, so I'll read this to you. I will be offering you all a contemplation which may prepare you for an authentic awakening experience. Spiritual awakening is not the same as political awakening or technical awakening through education. One can take a class in, say, fiber optics, or let's say the militarization of the internet, and become more educated about society's problems. But this is not spiritual awakening. Neither is studying scriptures of some, neither would that be some kind of spiritual awakening. You could study scriptures your whole life and just be stuck in your head. These intellectual studies are really more layers of accumulation upon us. So spiritual awakening is actually very, very simple. It's actually the cleaning of accumulations. Spiritual awakening leads to clarity of the psyche. With clarity, one can see more truly without prejudice. One can then become more discerning and exercise wiser judgment. Then one can guide oneself, one's family, one's neighborhood, community, or even region with more wisdom. So then that leads to the question of, what is wisdom? So what I'm saying is wisdom protects something. We can say that wisdom protects future generations. Wisdom wants to protect others from making unhealthy decisions. And by the way we get wise is by our mistakes. So when we remember our mistakes, that's our wisdom, and hopefully we can pass that on so other people don't make the same stupid mistakes that we made. Okay, so thus wisdom is not something that can be like hoarded or kept secret. It has to be given away to the next generation, to others, to be of value. So to become old and knowledgeable is not necessarily wisdom until it is passed on to others to ensure their health. So I'm saying wisdom has a moral component that is compassionate and cares for others. So that's what we want to gain through our awakening, through our clarity. That's where we want to get to with time. So the reason to seek a spiritual awakening, which is actually not a process of studying. Okay, it's not. Is the seeker, that would be yourself, wants to be free of limitations that make you unclear. Okay? We want to all see clearly. We don't want to be bogged down by our own baggage and social conditioning, and no, we want to be clear, and that is possible. In the past, and still, people would go into the wilderness, even though their lifestyle was very simple compared to ours. Still, they had to get away from their families and their community to see clearly, so they would go into the wilderness, and that was vision quest. And the vision they were seeking, sometimes it was actual, maybe looked into the future or remote viewing or something like that. But more it was to just simply get clear and get clean. And I'm saying this is important for all of us. So what we do find, and you all probably understand me, is that with time we learn that we have to include more than ourselves in our contemplation. And for myself, the greater whole that I consider important to remember always is that there are millions of other species. And we could say that's life, or life itself is the greater whole. And this greater whole, millions of other species, is now being threatened by one species. And I'm not talking about global warming, because that is something I've studied. And other planets are also warming up, and there's a big scam involved with that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about really our personal consumption is threatening all of life. Not just everything we consume. So now we'll go into a little bit of the past of this. I'm about halfway through. This one species, us, humans, we've been converted for about 7,000 years now through an alien mindset and an alien technology off planet. And we were Homo sapiens, people that knew and lived within nature. Okay? Well, we've slowly become, through this alien agenda, I call it, we've now become Homo indoorsians. We just live indoors. And we live separate from nature, and we don't know where our food comes from or anything. We don't know what the soil was like that our food might have grown in. We don't really know where our water comes from. We're pretty separate, and we're ignorant. And so we're easily manipulated because we don't know what's going on. And so, believe it or not, we are proud of this, and we call our separation from nature, we call it progress. And we are conditioned to think that we're progressing. But really, we're becoming more and more ignorant, and we're becoming more and more wasteful, and we don't even know the impact of what we're doing. So, the Homo indoorsians, they, how can I say this? The more artificial we become, the more modern and the more proud we become. And just to look at it, everything we have, everything, our clothes, everything, is a manufactured product that's transported a long way, which is wasteful. And all of it depends, in the beginning of it, on mining someplace in the world for minerals or ores or something that's also transported to a factory. And these minerals and ores are going to become increasingly rare, increasingly expensive, and really unobtainable. So what we call progress is really not sustainable. We're just using up the earth. And not just using it up, but polluting everything as we go, especially the water table. Wherever there's a mine, the water table is getting polluted. So what we are really ensuring, you and I are ensuring for our children and grandchildren and future generations, is less purity and more disease. And this is what we call progress. So for me, progress is a double-speak word. It just doesn't pan out. And we can go into this, and we probably will, but it's true. Well, I think it's true. So I feel the greatest jump in unsustainable and destructive technical progress came with Ben Franklin's study of electricity in 1751. And I would say the greatest jump before that was the gun, So one of my points is scientific innovations have always been sponsored by the rich elite who are really interested in more power for themselves through force. So that's why they're interested in more science and more innovation. That's where it leads. And we call electricity, we call it power. Well, what does that power do? Well, it replaces nature. And that is what we're doing with power and with electricity. And the more everyone's freaked out because we might run out of, quote, energy or, quote, power or electricity. And why? Because it would slow down or end our high consumption. You see what we're protecting there? So I call electricity the endless environmental impact statement. And I'll just mention a little bit about Ben Franklin. Ben Franklin is a soul who's incarnated many times. And that thread of souls, thread of incarnations, well, not souls, that thread of incarnations, another incarnation in that thread was Paramahansa Yogananda. And then the one following Yogananda was Dr. Stephen Greer. And I have confirmed that with Stephen myself. And it's very obvious when you know the history of both people. And here's Greer come back now into free energy. Well, is it free? Because it's all still going to be dependent on mining and pollution for any kind of device. So here we're seeing a blind spot for Stephen. He's not seeing that. And we can say categorically, there's no tech that is environmentally neutral. Definitely there's nothing that's beneficial, and there's nothing even that's neutral. All tech that depends on mining is environmentally destructive. That is our era. That is what's going on. So, and science itself, first of all, mathematics is divide and conquer. That's what mathematics is. And science is, in science, people take combinations of substances, minerals, chemicals that are purified and don't exist in nature in that form, and they combine them in unnatural ways to come up with unnatural consequences and products. And that, too, is all unsustainable. That, too, all causes pollution. Everything that science produces causes pollution. But that was the alien agenda. I can go pretty far with this, but I'm going to continue with what I wrote this morning. Free energy chainsaws and free energy bulldozers will not help millions of species. I hope everyone can get that, and that's what we're talking about here. And the civilization that would use this new source of electricity, our civilization, our lifestyle, is addicted to frequencies such as radio and Wi-Fi, cell phone, all that. And all of that is unhealthy and destructive to millions of species. So, if we have free energy to empower this destructive lifestyle, is that something in our wisdom we think is good? Is that something we're going to pass on to the next generation? Are we wise to even think like that? So, these are the big questions I ask. And then there's another aspect to free energy which I want to bring up, in that because it would really potentially be completely destructive by, free energy, chainsaws, bulldozers, everything else, there would be required a strict regulation globally to stop it from being destructive. And we then come to Big Brother's wet dream. Free energy is the ultimate excuse for one world government. And this is never asked by people like Stephen. Stephen never asks or is asked by anyone else, and I would like you to ask him that when you talk with him. Well, who's going to regulate the free energy? Who is going to regulate it? I can guess what his answer will be, but that I don't want to speculate, and that's another subject. let's move on now. We're almost to the end of my thing, I think.
Okay, Ray,
Where am I?
just what you're
Yeah.
saying here, just one thought, is that here we are in New York, using all the energy. We have all these various wonderful toys, that are powered, blah blah blah. But we all know that an EMP bomb, which is now definitely our country has it, as well as Russia, China, North Korea, and others. If that were to go off above the United States, we would literally go off power. The power grid would no longer work. And what you're saying, which sounds so remote, actually could put us exactly what you're pointing out. Very few people are thinking in those terms, but that's very real, as you know. And I think the group pretty much, we've discussed this before. But that is really something to look at. So what you're saying here is really quite important and valuable, because we need to go down this road of discussion and see where the priorities are. Do you want to start with question number 1 and see if anybody has any feedback?
Okay, my next sentence is, what is the alternative? But I am happy to. So let's pick apart Ray. Don't be shy. I'm always open to correction. So let's hear it.
Okay, great. And then we literally can visit back, to the other thing. So, guys, I'd like.
I'm halfway through, Nick, what I wrote this morning.
So why don't we?
But we'll return to it.
Absolutely. So we'll take questions now. Well, not all of
Yeah.
them, but we'll do a share of that, and then we'll go back to like the second round of what you're saying. All right? Is that
Okay.
great?
Sure.
Okay, good. So guys, if you have a question, please make a line over here. Do it now so that we can use the time as wisely as possible to sit here. Use your first name, and you can just say, my question is, and just phrase it into one sentence. Go ahead, please.
Hi, Ray. This is Marcy. We've had some correspondence. My question is, I agree with you about sustainability, but don't we also need to be talking about population reduction and regulation of the number of children that people are allowed to have in order to have this sustainable world and reduce overconsumption?
My answer is yes. Next question.
Oh my God! Whoa, you got off that really quick. All right, so so we'll move quickly and then we'll go back. All right.
Okay, Marcy, I'll add to that. Okay,
All right.
this might be a whole paragraph. Okay, here we go.
I think a whole book. Okay,
the elite know all about this. The off-planet agenda knows all about this, and this has been planned for a long time. Population reduction. We now have, not in the future, not being dreamed about. We have deployed already depopulation agendas. We have poison in our food, water, and air, and we are seeing more and more people coming up with cancer, but the controlled media does not report it. The CDC is completely crooked. Do you all know that the director of the CDC was arrested for bestiality a few years ago? These are all Satanists, okay? So the CDC works with the World Health Organization. It's all crooked crap. There is huge depopulation agendas going on, and one of the biggest right now is Wi-Fi and your smartphone, and that is going to kill people. And I'm now living actually with a housemate who is electrosensitive. She knows when the modem is on. If it gets too close to the modem or touches things, she'll get blood spots on her skin. And she's saying this is just the beginning. Everyone's going to get there. And she's right. She's absolutely right. But as it is now, and hopefully that will change, it's not being discussed. So the elite have their depopulation program in place. It's already happening, okay? Our generation, we may live to be old people, but the next generation, not very many will. And the next after that, it'll become less and less, and more autism, more and more Alzheimer's. All this is environmental diseases that are known about and not discussed. So, that's more than a paragraph. But the alternative, see, we always have to go to the alternative. What's the alternative? The alternative is people being really educated about their community and saying, This is my homeland. This is my limited land base. And we, as a community, are going to have to come up with, we're going to have to decide how many kids people have. And we are going to do this. Otherwise, we're dead ducks. So the alternative is very local, okay? What we have now, it's not top down. So when you, Marcy, say we have to, it's very important when we use the word we not to give away our power to some magic humanity that's guided by Big Brother who's going to make all of our decisions. We need to be, each of us individually, as sovereign beings, take care of our own families and our own friends and spread the word that this isn't going to work or this will work. That's where I come back to the wisdom. Now, it's very long-winded, but anyway, the answer was yes.
You know, on the subject of Wi-Fi, and of course sometimes we can't control our environment, it's just there. But well, for instance, my own apartment, I had my modem right next to my bed with my laptop. So I got that taken out, and I have a wire that goes directly into my laptop now. So I don't have Wi-Fi. And
you don't have from your own modem. But if you search for Wi-Fi connections with your computer, you'll probably have 50 different signals coming into you from everyone else's Wi-Fi.
Yeah, and I'm in a building, a large building, and of course a lot of people have that. And I do see on my screen that Wi-Fi's are showing up, you know, there must be 10 that I see on my screen that other neighbors have got Wi-Fi going. So it's hard to get, your point being it's hard to get rid of it, you bet. We have another question. Say your name.
Let me just say one more word on that. Nick, you live in an apartment, and somewhere in your apartment is a bank of electric meters for finding out how much electricity each apartment is using.
Right outside
Those
my
are
front door. Right outside my front door. You're absolutely
well,
right.
those are all smart meters, Nick. You're in a very unhealthy environment. I would definitely suggest moving apartments. Those smart meters are all emitting Wi-Fi all the time, not constantly, but at a regular pace all day long, 24 hours a day. And they are weaponized, okay? So they can be skewed. The frequency can go to slow kill or fast kill. That's a real deal. And so I definitely, Nick, would say, any of you who have your own home, try to get away from the smart meter. Here in Hawaii, I can pay for an analog meter, and I do every month. But the laws are different places. Okay, next question. By the way, everyone, I was the one smart meter activist, the lead activist here in Kauai. We got 10% of the people to opt out of smart meters. So I'm fairly familiar with this. Okay.
Here we go.
Hi, my name is Rena, and my question is, we have 7.5 billion people now. How can we live without electricity and do the kind of thing that you're talking about on a local level? How can we do that?
What I believe is going to happen is it's going to become obvious to young people that the cities are not a healthy place to live, and they're going to start leaving. And the cities are going to deconstruct. They're going to become salvage zones for salvaging materials. And right now, half of human beings live in cities, are urban. But the young people are not going to stay. They're going to say, we see the writing on the wall, we're out of here. So there's going to be a natural attrition away from the cities, and at the same time, I'm hoping that people are waking up to, wow, I want clean food. I want organically grown food. I'm going to buy organic food, even though it's double the price, just to support these organic farmers, because I support them, because they're right, and those people become the teachers. And these young people are going to be leaving the city, and it's already happening. Okay, at the same time, there's people leaving the countryside and going to the city because they want to they've been, conditioned by Hollywood to think that there's something groovy and fashionable about that. But the survivors are going to leave, and Rena, I mean, the truth is there is going to be starvation. It's unavoidable, and that's 7.5 billion, or maybe 10 billion, or 20 billion, or 50 billion people are not going to make it. 100 billion people are not going to make it. It's just not going to happen. And we're already running out of resources, and they're getting more expensive. So the writing is on the wall. So what we need to do as older people is encourage young people to seek a healthy lifestyle, healthy food, everything healthy. And they will naturally leave the city, is my opinion.
Well, Ray, we already had a program on that, on living off the grid, and we're going to have another one in the late spring addressing just what you're saying. It's incredibly important. Let's go to then the second question you were proposing, which is, what do we want to protect? Does anybody want to address that or ask a question for that one? No, not in the room. Okay, so Ray, want to just comment on that?
I would just say those are background questions. Okay, we don't have to do that. If people in the room, is there anyone else in the room who has a question right now who wanted to?
Are you saying a general question?
Or on anything I just have already talked about?
Okay, then let's try that. Okay, hold on. She's going to come up here. Help her. Hey, help her, please.
The question is,
Say your name, please.
Betty.
Hi,
The
Becky.
question is, in what way can humanity safely control free energy?
Okay, I'm going to get into a topic here. When you say humanity, you are talking as a globalist, okay? There is no such thing as humanity. This is a globalist term to put everybody in one category. In fact, there are hundreds and maybe thousands still. There used to be 6,000 languages before colonialism. But let's say there's thousands of cultures out there. There's no humanity. There's thousands of cultures. And each one is going to be dealing with the future differently because they each have a different land base. So the answer to a globalist question like that is to end globalism, to end this whole idea that there's a big brother who's going to take care of all of humanity, which is what you're asking. You're talking about one world government. No, there's no one world government that I want, and there's no humanity to be addressed by one world government as, supposedly we're all equal. No, we're not. We have different cultures, and each culture has to deal with their land base in their own way. And so what I'm trying to point out, Becky, is we've all been infected by this globalist thinking. We use the word we like you have something in common with some natives in Tierra del Fuego or Siberia. You don't. Their lifestyle and your lifestyle are not the same humanity. They have a different humanity than you and I. So there is no answer. I don't want a globalist answer. I don't want a big brother answer. I want relocalization in every community to get back their sovereignty and realize we have a limited land base and we have to take care of, we have to decide, we have to be realistic about how many children we can support. That's what I'm saying is the alternative to Big Brother. Okay, and what I'm trying to point out is we are all, you are definitely, and I used to be, infected by this word humanity. There's no such thing, okay? It's just like the word progress. Progress is doublespeak for destruction. Civilization is doublespeak for slavery. Humanity is doublespeak for Big Brother, okay? That's what it really means. Stick with me here. Do you understand what I just said?
Yeah. Yep.
Yes.
Does Becky understand?
Yes.
Yes, we got it.
It's heavy, what I just said. It's like our own thinking has been infected. See, so that we give up our sovereignty to some answer for everybody. Well, we're not everybody. You know, we don't want to be everybody. We want to be ourselves. We don't want to be one of 8 or 10 or 100 billion people and everyone gets their ration. We don't want that. Okay, next question.
Does someone want to ask a general question? Ray, I do. You live in a paradise area. I've been there. It's gorgeous.
It's not paradise. It just has a nice climate.
But my question is, what are your problems and issues where you live, which you think there wouldn't be any, but I know for a fact that there are some. What's going on there? I mean, we're trying to say escape to a better life, a simpler life. What are your issues right there in Kauai or in Hawaii itself? Environmental, so forth.
Well, I discovered when coming here that I didn't have to go anywhere for every single problem in the world. We have a military base here that is test missiles. They they test missiles here, and they create missiles here.
Wow.
We have that here, right here on Kauai. Kauai, everyone, is a small island with 60,000, maybe 70,000 people living on it. So we have a military base that has, you know, we created the Aegis missile, which can hit anywhere in the world in 1 hour. You know, and that's Kauai. And then we have, because we're an island far from other agriculture, we are a center for GMO testing. So all the GMO biotech companies are here testing their products with massive, continual, different kind of chemicals to see if their plants can withstand it. And so we have cancer here, and cancer clusters, and we have lawsuits and class action lawsuits with these companies who are able, with their money, they're super rich companies, to stall, I mean, while people are dying. Right here, okay, you talk about paradise, then, you know, we have the smart meters. They were, this was a research place for it. They were kind of kicked off here as a test zone. Islands are often used as test zones. New Zealand's another one. And then we have, like you have, we have a corrupt police force that is into drug running. So we have drugs, lots of drugs. We have to worry about thievery and stuff from all the addicts with ice and crystal meth and all this crap. You know, so that's paradise. Now we have all these tourists coming who are getting on their smartphones and sending selfies to their friends, and we have this mass injection of tourists, so much that I go to the grocery store, I can't park. It's become oppressive. So we are feeling the population surge, and I just got back from Africa last June, and I think that might be my last international trip, because I saw the same thing there that I saw in Indonesia, that I saw in Fiji, that I saw in Thailand, in China, everywhere I've gone. Globalization, the Amazon. I'm in the Amazon, everybody, in a little town, tiny town, 500 people, and they have a little bank. And the bank is using your finger to identify yourself, okay? They're testing out all this tech in the Amazon, okay? In a unbelievable. And so what I saw on this last trip to Africa is everyone is being converted to this industrial humanity. Everything else is being wiped away. Oh, I also stayed with Aboriginals in Australia. Same thing there. I stayed for 5 months with them. Everywhere the same. Everything is being scraped, and to prepare us all for rations. Everywhere. And everywhere I go, I have a big heart, and people pick up on it. I make friends with people, and sure enough, I'm a billionaire compared to them, and they need help. And I'm tired of it. I can't travel now because I look like a billionaire because I can afford an airplane ticket, and it's true. These people can't. So, anyway, so Kauai has all of the problems. Okay, it has all of the problems right here.
All right. Sorry to hear that, but I know what you're saying is honest and true. I just have to go to one more point, and then we'll go back to the rest of your talk for today. This is the first of two sessions. We're going to have another part 2 from you, Ray, coming up in a month and a half, but we'll go into that later. What I want to ask you was, we all know that recently there was a nuclear threat that was broadcast that they said was false. Any reading about what the heck was that all about?
Yeah, I will email you a YouTube that just sums it up. But basically, it was all fake. There's tourists who saw something explode. So there's some conjecture that there actually was a missile and it was shot down or something like that happened. And then the whole idea that it was an accident, that someone pressed the wrong button, is all false. There's 5 steps to get there, and 2 people have to press the button simultaneously. So that's impossible. Then the next thing, NBC, I think it was in the exact office where these buttons supposedly are, the same day. Okay, what were they doing there? Okay. 4th thing, Japan, a couple days later, had exactly the same, quote, accident. That, oh, missiles from North Korea are coming, and put everyone into a panic, okay? They just have, oh, it was an accident. So my immediate response now to most things are it's a false flag, and I can nail why. This was a false flag to get, oh, this 5th thing. I live here on Kauai. The day before this event happened, we had sonic booms here, really loud, rattling sonic booms, which I've lived here 25 years, never ever have had. This was to get everyone rattled up, you know, and then they have the warning. It's to get everyone terrorized, and to get everyone irrational, and then on almost a subliminal level or a subconscious level to support some war against North Korea, who is not a threat. It's a joke. They're not a threat. So that's what all this is. And so now I gave you the YouTube. That's basically it. But the YouTube doesn't include the sonic boom part, which I was here to witness. So it was all another psyop. Okay, that's what it was. But it may have been. I don't think so, to cover up a real missile, because that doesn't explain the sonic boom thing. Okay, that's that.
Okay, thank you, my friend. Appreciate your comment
Yeah.
there. All right, why don't we then, seeing what the time is like, go to the second part of your talk.
Right. All right, so where I am in my little thing I wrote this morning. So I say, well, what is the alternative? Is Stone Age lifestyle a better lifestyle than our polluting Indorsian lifestyle? And how do we answer that question? Well, let's not answer it. What do millions of other species say? They say, yeah, that is a way better lifestyle than what you guys are doing. So we Indorsian people, see, we've forgotten how to make anything by hand, and we would resist a return to a Stone Age lifestyle that millions of other species really need. We would resist that. And so not only do we resist it, but we wholeheartedly embrace all the destruction and the destruction of indigenous cultures, because we support progress. See, so we cannot go back to Stone Age. That's like, oh, that's insane. Even though millions of other species would love it, we can't do that because we're into progress. See how we're hypnotized? So, but our progress is not sustainable and is going to, kill life on Earth. That's where we're headed. And so our progress is insane, and we are insane. And we're addicted. So what I say is the word civilization really should be changed to slavery. Now I want to talk about slavery. Slavery, I'm saying, came from off planet. Before that, people just lived freely. But then something came and coerced people in places like Mesopotamia and some of the big Asian rivers and stuff to produce food, shelter, and clothing for the elite. Okay, the elite were born with I'll call that industrial agriculture. Okay, this is 7,000 years ago. Before that, people were just hunting and gathering and growing their own food. They weren't serving any elite. And these elite are described in the Bible. They were seen as gods. They were off-planet beings, and they brought other things. They brought secret languages that could only be understood by the initiated people. Symbols, all kind of graven image stuff, and then later written language. All this is to serve, actually dumbs us down, because before that, we were all intuitive and directly connected with nature. But now we've been made slaves, and now there's secret languages which we're not given. People weren't given. And that's true today. I mean, how many people understand programming, really understand what's going on with the internet? Well, almost no one. So we are still being kept dumbed down, but okay. So, and what I'm saying is before these graven images and written languages and all these symbols, people were living fine for tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe longer years. People were having kids and being happy and all the things they were doing, So I call this the alien agenda. And it leads right up to Roswell, which I'm not going to go into, but hopefully you all know that Roswell is real and that Lieutenant Corso was responsible for disseminating the technology from back-engineered spacecraft to industry, and that's where we got the integrated chip and fiber optics and everything. Our civilization is an alien civilization here on the planet. That our technology is alien technology. But you just read The Day After Roswell by Lieutenant Corso, Philip Corso. So what I want to address now is really the group and your group, but also everyone on the internet who's studying all this stuff. And what I'm saying is a lot of us have like a hobby, it's almost a hobby of thinking that we're becoming politically awake. And that we kind of are, we are, but that's not spiritual awakening. It's this hobby we have is really kind of useless if you think about it. You could study your whole lives. Maybe some of you have. And now you're 60, 70, 80, 90. Oh, it's time to die. And what was it? What was the use of it? So what I'm saying, spiritual awakening is really important. And spiritual awakening is getting clear. Okay, that's how I'm defining it. It's getting clear, and there actually are authentic experiences of clarity, which I'm a person who had the fortune to have that experience when I was 20. That's the Zen background. But then the other thing that we need to do, even though we have this hobby, is we need to reject our own consumerism. We are the ones destroying life for millions of species, So and then we can pass on that knowledge, and so we have something. So I'm saying spiritual awakening and lifestyle reformation are, I think are more important than, quote, political awakening. And when we hear people say, oh, people are waking up, well, are they? Are they spiritually waking up? Are they getting more clear? No. And are they consuming different than they were before? No, they're not. They're still consuming the same. So this is what I'm pointing at here, is we need to really do it. We can't just study anymore. We need to do it. We need to get clear, and we need to reform our lifestyles. Okay, I'm now going to offer everyone something which has come up in my correspondence with some other friends, and that is, how do you deconstruct or deprogram belief systems? And what I'm saying, really, actually, all belief systems are limited. It doesn't matter how grand your belief system is, it's still just a belief system. It's not, and the way to undercut all belief systems, I'm saying, is to contemplate the meaning of infinity. And this really can free the mind. So, infinity, we could talk about the infinite space, which includes infinite planets and infinite galaxies, or we could talk about our own incarnations. There's infinite incarnations in the past and coming up in the future. We could talk about infinity in terms of directions. We could point this way or that. There's infinite directions. And we could also look at it in terms of time. Time goes on forever. It will never ever stop. It's infinite. And then another one which would be way too big a conversation for today is, we each, in our own souls and our own spirituality, have infinite layers. Each of us have infinite dimensions of ourselves, which is pretty amazing. But you've all had indications of that, I think. You've had messages that didn't make sense, and where we mix and blend with other beings. So I'm not going to get into infinite layers, but this contemplation of infinity is a way to undercut limited viewpoints. And a lot of people don't do it. And I have very educated friends, super intelligent, educated friends, who have a block in their head that they cannot contemplate infinity. And when I said there is no supreme being, they said, what do you mean? I said, haven't you contemplated infinity? There's no top. There's no center. There's no beginning, because it's infinite in all those directions. I'll give an example. If we take a cell of our bodies, and then we look in the microscope, and we get smaller and smaller and smaller, you know what we're going to find? We end up finding galaxies inside there. It goes on forever in smallness and in bigness. Okay, so the exercise for people, and you can do this with young people, is you just start with a point. You say, okay, let's just take a point. Or we could call the point me. Just say the point to me. And now look over in that direction. Okay, just look at that direction. And imagine that your eyes in that direction goes like an arrow, keeps going through everything. It goes right through that and that and that and that. It goes out into the galaxy. It goes beyond the galaxy. It keeps going. It hits another galaxy. It keeps going, going, going infinitely. Okay, then you say to the person, okay, now turn around. Now you're exactly, let's say, looking exactly the other direction. And hey, it infinitely goes that way too. And so where you're starting at, your point of origin on this endless timeline in both directions, is actually arbitrary. Okay, and so all these measurements that we have that we think have meaning, and all these belief systems, they're all kind of bogus. There is no beginning. There is no original creator. There's something before that being. There's no supreme being. There's something above that being, and above and above and above and above. And that cuts, you guys can see that cuts a lot of belief system, and we get back to our sovereignty. Well, okay, then I'm responsible for me. I am responsible for me. There's no supreme being. It's just absurd. But that's the conditioning. That's a mind programming. So the other, we can look at our incarnations, our past, all these things, galaxies, everything's infinite. And that, people say, well, what am I supposed to do with that? How can I use that? Well, you use it not to be attached. That's the big goal, is not to be attached to limited viewpoints and to see expansively. When you can really get to this place, your intuition's really going to grow, because you're not cluttered with this chatter of belief systems, and you're not all plugged up, and you don't have simple answers anymore. Oh, God will do it. Well, no. There is no supreme God, because there's no top. There's no top to anything. So that simple answer is not going to cut it. We have to take responsibility, not someone else is going to do it. And you can see how empowering that could become. And what another word for infinity is the great mystery. Okay? So when my biggest realization, I'm sure you've all had it, I hope, is I don't know. See? That is, people think, well, you're an idiot. No, you're an idiot because you think you know, and you're proud of it, and you have no humility. I at least am humble enough to say I don't know. The universe, the multiverse, is bigger than I can imagine. I can't possibly understand it. I don't know. And that open-mindedness is very valuable. I'd like to say, and what I wrote here was that this kind of contemplation was not wanted by the elite of the past, who enslaved everyone. They instead wanted people, instead of having that open-mindedness and living in the great mystery and being responsible and sovereign beings who would protect themselves and others, they wanted everyone to be slaves. So they gave them belief systems, okay? And basically you could say God or Big Brother or the gods, or someone's going to take care of it. You're not, okay? And you never question the gods. You never question any of that. You just are a slave, okay? You're dumbed down. That was the point. And that's been going on to all of us for 7,000 years, okay? And I wrote down an example here of dumbing down. And I ask here, why did the emperors of China build those great walls? There's thousands of miles of walls. Every 100 feet of it would take months and months to build. I mean, it's incredible. How many millions of people, of slaves, died doing that? And supposedly, okay, the Chinese people were told, oh, we're doing this to protect you from the Mongol raiders, okay, who keep coming in and raiding. We're doing it to protect you. Does this sound familiar, anyone? It's like we're going to put all these surveillance and everything else in place to protect you. And it's a lie. The walls were built as to control the masses, to help dumb them down. And I give the example because the emperor could have had a much, much cheaper solution. He could have said, okay, all you people on the borders, we're arming you all, we're training you all, you guys need to protect yourselves. When these people come, you wipe them out. Well, no, they wouldn't want to arm their own citizens and train their own citizens. No, they had to keep everyone dumbed down, okay? So the wall was both an excuse for more slavery and a way to keep people, dumbed down. I hope I made my point with that. And this has been going on all the way up to today, okay? It's still going on. And let's see, where am I in my little thing here? I wanted to talk about, I'm going to mention Jesus here. And what I wrote was, the way we can understand Jesus is not by studying all these mistranslations about what he might have said. That's not going to do it. You can throw all that away, actually. The way to study Jesus is to study the reaction that the Satanists have against him. They want to shut down everything about him. and they have been for a while. And so I hope you all are familiar with what I mean by Satanists, because, well, maybe that's not the right word, but we could say globalists who are also into pedophilia and Satanism. And so what they did with Jesus was, in the Catholic Church, they have this crucifix with this bloody body on it. This is what's put in front of the masses all the time. Subliminally, this is terrorizing everybody. And it was backed up. If you didn't go to church, you would get persecuted, okay? And there's the example of persecution right there, this bloody corpse on a cross. This was the Catholic Church controlling the masses and dumbing down the masses. It's horrible, you know? But Jesus is something very, very good. Okay, you can find the goodness of him actually just by communicating with him directly. Believe it or not, you can. But it's very important to study why to see how much he's hated. And oh, they hate him, you know, because he challenged them. Okay? So I'm not a Christian, but I have had my interactions with this being, and I notice that the criminals hate him, and so he becomes my friend. And I'm actually the same way with Trump. I don't think Trump is perfect, but the bad guys hate him, so I'm his friend. I think, let's see, what else did I want to talk about here? I was just about at the end. I want to talk about liberalism. Liberalism bleeds into anything goes, and it's opposed to tradition, which is conservative. So liberalism wants to destroy traditions for anything goes, and that starts to tie into the perversions we see in Hollywood and everything else. And the underlying liberalism, this is a point I like to make to people, I'm making it now. Underlying liberalism is New Age laws. Okay, it's very important to know there are New Age laws, and everyone in the room has been infected by this stuff. The one biggest New Age law is that you shouldn't judge anyone else. Okay, and if you do, then you will be condemned very vocally as being judgmental. So this is a mind conditioning that we've been given, and a lot of us have been given. In fact, everybody should judge everything all the time and call that their discernment and take responsibility for it. That's not the same as being judgmental. That's judging, discerning, making a decision, taking responsibility for it, being sovereign. But you see, liberalism doesn't want that. They don't, just like the Chinese emperors didn't want to arm their own people, liberals don't want people to conserve anything. They don't want people to have any tradition that they defend. They want anything goes. And I'm saying there's people in the room, I know for sure, and I was in the past too, that was very infected by this. But I don't see it that way now. I see now that every culture has a right to its own view, and every person has a right to their own view, and it's not for me to impose on them. And if they judge things a different way than I do, well, then they do, you know, and that's their right. So I'm asking right there, everybody, to locate that in yourselves, how you've been infected. You've been infected by globalism, but you've also been infected by this New Age law that you're not supposed to judge anything. Well, that's wrong. See, I just judged. That's wrong. You should judge things because some things are healthy and some things are unhealthy. And everyone should know how they feel. And with that, I am done with my little talk about expressing my opinions on these various topics.
Well, Ray, you've covered some very deep, wide-ranging topics.
Yes.
Controversial, and I give you a lot of credit for opening up these doors and really making us think. Now, there's some people here who have have been taking notes, of course, and again, they've been told that as soon as we have when this is going to be on the internet, on the YouTube, we'll let them know. But right now, there might be some people in the room who have a general question for you. So, is there anyone in the room who'd like to? Okay, please come up.
So Nick, it's now for you guys. I don't know what time it is there, but we have another. How many more minutes?
Yeah, just about that. I've been keeping track of that too, Ray. So not a problem.
We have another 45 minutes to talk.
No. We have right now we have about 20 minutes tops
Okay.
So we have time for some questions and then some comments. I have some comments if there's time, but we'll see how it goes. All right. So hold on.
And you all are very open. I'm sorry, Nick. You all are very welcome to criticize me. To criticize what I'm saying, to say, no, I don't think that's right, Ray, blah, blah, blah. Because no one can be perfectly right, and I'm not.
No, I understand what you're saying, and you've always been open like that, and I know there's been times when people have presented some facts to you that you have modified or even changed opinions in different ways. I've seen you do that, so I know that is about you. I think that's obviously a good thing. Now here's a question for you. Say your first name.
Hi Ray, first name Ed.
Is this Edward?
I don't. The question is.
Edward Schwartz?
You got it.
Hi, Ed.
Hi. My question is, what is your opinion about the death penalty? When I was growing up in the early 60s, there was a very famous case in California that changed the opinion of the country about the death penalty. It was the Carol Chessman case. He was on death row for many weeks, and then they finally decided not to execute him. And then since that time, there's been a growing consensus in our government against the death penalty, although it still exists in certain states. So the question is, are there some murders that rise to the level of Satanism that would justify the case for execution by the state?
In my opinion, Ed, the local community should deal with it. And I want to see a deconstruction of the federal, deconstruction, first deconstruction of UN, then federal, then state, and get back to maybe county, where each community will deal with what they feel is the most just solution. That is my opinion, really. So that's all I can say.
Okay. Someone else?
Yep.
Who hasn't been on yet? Okay. Please come up. Come up also to be next in line. Okay. This is excellent. I think everyone can hear every word of this. So I want to thank Tom, who has been so generous in finding us the right technical equipment to buy, so that everybody in the room can hear. Tom, I want to just thank you very much for your technical expertise.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that. Okay, please go say your name again and what your question is.
This is Rena again, and my question is, what do you think is the purpose of human life?
The purpose of human life. What is the purpose of human life?
Okay.
Okay, you're taken.
Yeah. Rena, I'm not a human supremacist. I don't think human life is that different than any other form of life. We, with 5 fingers, have the physical ability to manipulate the environment in a way that most other animals don't. And so we have a more ability to impact our environment, and with that impact comes responsibility, and we are able to be irresponsible or responsible. And that point of kind of a watershed between responsible and irresponsible exists in other species on other planets also. It exists all over the place. But on our planet, human beings are the most capable of impact and have therefore the most responsibility. And then that position in the cosmos, you might say, of that kind of species, that kind of incarnation, then has been targeted by an alien agenda that's now producing, we are now in our underground cities producing technology and spacecraft for aliens to use. This whole thing of flying to the stars is actually all about these ancient alien motherships who are so disconnected from their home planet millions of years ago, billions of years ago, that's how they live, you know. And we are actually their colony. They're farming us to extract everything they can from our planet and from us for their agenda, which is to survive. They're eating us. They feed off of us. Okay. So the purpose of human life is not, if you look at dolphins playing or otters or puppies, you see other animals have pleasure, they have enjoyment, they have drama, all kind of dramas. I watch my little dogs play. They have all kind of dramas going on, and I have all these pet birds. I live in an aviary actually, and they're all having their dramas. And their purpose of life is really the same as ours, which is to experience. And then within us, we human beings, there are all kind of different pools of consciousness. There's different families of consciousness who are incarnating here, and they each have their own purposes. I was part of a group that was into governing. I was part of the New World Order, in my past lives. I was part of that whole thing. I was present at the Magna Carta. There's all kind of things I know about my past lives, and I was a part of that globalization process. That was my purpose. I was a part of a team. Some people's purpose is to get off the planet as fast as they can. They want to ascend and go to some other place, So there isn't one, again, there isn't one purpose. And, but I feel the one common thing we all have is we all understand that love is what holds value. Love is what holds value, and love is a purpose, and the bigger the love, the more broad our purpose is. So you could be like, some Rockefeller person, and all you love is your own family and screw everyone else. Well, that's a very limited love. Whereas my love, personally, is millions of species. I love millions of species. I want to protect them. So I think what we have in common is love, and what I am trying to do is promote the idea of loving more than just human beings, and not be a human supremacist. To love dolphins. Dolphins are really intelligent too. They're super intuitive. There's stories I have. People I know have had psychic experiences with whales. Unbelievable telepathic stuff. They're deserving. And what's their purpose in life? Well, it's to experience. And, of course, they experience love.
Thank you, Ray. We have time for one more question for you. So please say your first name and what's your question?
My name is Paul, Ray.
Hi, Paul.
How you doing? My question is, you're familiar with the discovery of exoplanets, right? And the thing is, if the other part of the question is, if we don't adapt or establish understanding of the effects of electronic equipment, how are we going to establish space travel when we want to go to these wonderful little
Okay. I will answer this question. It's a great question, and I'm happy to field it. But I would like to say that I don't want you to take my answer personally. I'm not coming down on what you personally. So now I'm going to blaze away. Basically, what you're talking about is consumerism. I live in a place where I told you there's maybe 70,000 people who live here, but we might have 1 million tourists a year. All these people who are coming here they're all consumers. They're coming to consume the sweetness of the land, the sweetness of the ocean, and they are all impacting it and destroying it. So now, if we want to go out and consume experiences as tourists and go to other planets, what's the impact of that? What the hell are we doing? And why are we so addicted to consumerism? Why are we looking outside ourselves? You know, what's so wonderful about it? Because we destroyed our planet to do this space travel. We had a mine to produce the metals. We had transportation to get the metals to where they went. We had a factory to produce the metals. They polluted. Everything polluted along the way. Then the parts get to this place. They're transported. More pollution, more pollution, more pollution. And what is so wonderful about that? And it's the ego, not your ego, Paul, because I'm not coming down on you. It's our collective consumerist ego that thinks it's okay to be a tourist and be a voyeur and go out and observe everything else and not notice our impact on what we're doing. So to me, I'm just going to say the F word right now. Fuck space travel. Fuck it. It's totally it's totally destructive of this Earth to produce the hardware to get there, and it's totally destructive of our sovereignty to look elsewhere for meaning. And to be a tourist, you know, I live in a tourist zone, okay? And I'll tell you right now, Kauai is not going to stop being a tourist zone. I've told people, as long as planes can fly, Kauai is a clean place in a dirty world. So we're going to have a tourist, and it's disgusting, you guys. Come, visit me, be a tourist, and come see for yourselves. Be in the traffic jams. Go to the grocery store. You can't park. Everything about it is polluting. This space travel that you're enamored with, Paul, and many other people are, including Alex Jones, who repeats it constantly, these are all globalist ideas coming from the alien agenda. The only way we could have space travel is to have a global government that produces the tech. That's the only way, and we are not going to go there. Do you think you're one of 7.5 billion people? You think you're going to go? Who's we? You're repeating a meme that has to do, and this is really deep. Maybe we'll get into this next time. A lot of us, most of us, maybe all of us, are ET. We all have origins from other planets, and like I said, infinitely other planets. The lineage goes back forever. We all have memories of this. We all have memories of leaving our planets because we had to, or whatever these reasons, and there's a sensation of freedom. There's a sensation of freedom, but it's not freedom. It's dependency and tourism and consumerism. It's not really freedom.
On that note, Ray, I can't...
On that note.
We have been through an exciting 90 minutes. Thank you, sir, for your incredible lecture. Your second part 2, is coming up on March 4th of 2018, and we certainly look forward to that. Please, everybody in the room, say a big thank you to Ray Songtree. Woo! Bravo. Much love to you, Ray. I'll be calling you tomorrow, but thank you so much, and God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys. Whoa. Thank you for all the attention, doing what you were, being quiet, asking good questions. Don't forget, we've got something big coming up again. The 2 dates, I gave them to you before. The 1st and the 3rd Sunday. The announcement's going to go out tomorrow, so you'll be able to make... Barbara, hang on. You can do it on your own?